Fernandez here for another lifting everybody up type talk. I'm going to start again. Hang on. I'll start again. Hi everyone, it's Kamal Fernandez here from Kamal Fernandez Dog Training. I get my words out there. And I'm doing a series of conversations with my peers, people that I call friends, to try and inject some positivity into the atmosphere at present, in that we are in very unusual, challenging times for those of us that are dog trainers and self-employed dog trainers, or even hobby dog trainers. Things that we can do to lift the spirit, to help ourselves, stay focused, stay upbeat, stay positive in the moment that we are in, because there's a lot of uncertainties ahead of us. With me today, I have my very good friend, Di Martin, who is online with me. She's an excellent dog trainer. She is a top-level obedience competitor. She is a professional dog trainer. She's won Crufts with her fabulous dog that she bred herself, called Lulu. She is also a breeder of Crufts champions. Her resume goes on and on and on, and all around she is an absolutely wonderful person who I am privileged to call a friend, and she's incredibly kind. So when I reached out to her to say, would you have this conversation with me, to try and talk about what we can do now in this moment, and how we can help each other. As I said, my mantra for this moment is a rising tide lifts all ships. And if we can, come together and collaborate and be proactive in what we do, we can all get through this, hopefully, and remain a little bit sane. So thank you for your time, Di. How are you?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
And how are you coping with things at present? How's it been in so Di's based in Bracknell, and she runs her business Click to Heal. So if you want to get online and have a look at that, we'll talk about that shortly. But if you want to check Di out, they've got a Facebook page and social media. But yeah, sorry there, Di, interrupting you.
That's okay, no problem at all. Yeah, I think it's a huge kind of changing times, particularly for kind of small businesses, as dog trainers are, and that we're all kind of client facing, which makes it very, very difficult, particularly with, the kind of shutdown that we're going to have to go through probably on and off for a few months, I expect. Yeah, so difficult times.
Yeah. So just tell us a little bit about your business at present, and what you do in a normal, if things were normal, what would you be doing on a daily basis? And just give us a breakdown of some of the things that you as a trainer and as a business offer to your clients, because you're quite a real diverse spectrum of things that you cover.
Yeah, so a bulk of my business is obviously training people with their pets. So new dog owners and dog owners have got a new puppy. So we do an awful lot of kind of puppy work. So that includes home visits, which are obviously very difficult now. And we run lots of classes, different types of classes, and also just one-to-ones for general training, behaviour training, and then there's the sports kind of work that I do.
Yeah, and you also have a hydrotherapy centre?
Yeah, we do. We have a hydrotherapy centre for rehab and fitness. Yep. So we have a swimming pool and we have a water treadmill here.
Yeah, and that's Therapause. So, if you follow me on social media on Instagram, you would have seen my dogs go to Therapause. I'm very lucky to have worked with them, and they are absolutely fantastic team of people that are absolutely understanding the dog, and not only about the specifics of hydrotherapy, but how to bring and introduce dogs into that environment in itself, which can be challenging, which I think is where your team really, really excel, where dogs are a little bit apprehensive and concerned. One of my dogs had a bit of an experience previously, and it was absolutely down to Di's team that now she's back to absolutely loving swimming. So that was a real, a feather in your cap. So we're just discussing, obviously we've discussed about how your business used to run when you were in more, inverted commas, normal times. How has there been changes within how you operate at present?
Well, the first change that we actually made was recognizing that it kind of wasn't good to be in groups of people. So the first kind of big change we made was stopping the classes, but we're now running those via live videoing conferences. So setting that up pretty much kind of straight away as soon as we kind of felt we needed to. So we've been running that for about 3 weeks now,
Yep.
and it's proving quite successful. We're finding there's some different training that we can do online that we maybe can't get around to doing in classes so much.
Oh, that's great.
So, we're trying to utilise it as best we can, cover some of those kind of elements for people, giving them some more kind of tools and techniques to be working with their dogs. And I think there's also advantages in the fact that the dog's at home and in a relaxed environment.
Absolutely,
so clients that are new to kind of training, they can get a little bit more concentration from their dog because they haven't got the environmental distraction. So
I think that's a huge silver lining, isn't it? Okay, you might not be able to demonstrate with the dog, and they might not be able to see physically, or be in the room with you, but there is something to be said for the dog in that. Certainly with puppies, they're going to get probably the best chance of getting anything out of them, and then it's a case of transferring that to new environments. So actually, it's actually quite there is something to be gained from the fact that we've all been forced to change the way in which we work. Almost to the point of where you go puppy classes, it might be worth doing a preliminary on this medium, even when things do go back to being normal. Sort of doing maybe the first 2 or 3 sessions where they start with some foundation in the home via, what platform are you using? Are you using Zoom to do it?
Yeah, we're using Zoom to do it. And so previously we would have always gone around to do most of our clients do take our package where they do a couple of one-to-ones. So we always usually get to do a home visit before they come to classes.
Yeah.
So that kind of sets the scene for them. They can start their communication process with the dog.
Yeah.
They're gaining a little bit of knowledge themselves and about how they learn.
Yeah.
But then if the new owners, once they come into a class environment, they do often find it quite difficult.
Yeah.
And it's difficult for the dog to go into, not all dogs, some will, we have a little bed in the class and they have their own little pods to work in. So most dogs can relax in that environment, but sometimes they can't. So at home, they're a little bit more relaxed. They're able to do the kind of settle on the mat exercise a little bit better. So I think they are actually seeing some benefits to doing the classes like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned earlier about there is things that you can see that are actually better online than when you're saying face to face. So what are the things that you've noticed actually there is a plus to all of this?
Well, I think, different exercises. So say if you're using remote feeding stations, that's very hard to do in a kind of class environment if everyone's doing the exercise at once. And people can feel a little bit kind of intimidated by getting up and doing one at a time.
Yeah.
And if you do it one at a time, although you've got the learning from other people, you're essentially doing the same exercise that people are watching, 5 or 6 times, depending on the numbers in the class. But with remote feeding stations and teaching them the benefits of things like that, it's much easier for them to do at home. So we send them an email prior. We tell them all the equipment they need and what they're going to do with the equipment, so they're all kind of set up, ready to go.
Yeah.
So different things like that you can include in your class plans. And some of the kind of station training games that I've developed with my clients, we're able to put those into the class now, which we wouldn't be able to do in a classroom environment.
Oh, excellent! So there is some pluses to the change in the way in which you operate things. That's fantastic. So how are you managing with your own dogs at home, and how are you managing? Obviously, there is restrictions about what we can, how many times we can go out, etc. I mean, obviously, it's only just happened. How are you anticipating having to deal with those situations? Because you're really things like I know that you use things like enrichment techniques to deliver food to your dogs. How do you manage with your own dogs?
I don't think things are going to change too much for my own dogs, actually, because with my own dogs, I do tend to give them one good run a day. So that's kind of free running, so exercise. And then most of their entertainment would be kind of mental stimulation at home anyway. Luckily, I've got a large garden and an area to use. So because I enjoy training with my own dogs, their mental stimulation then comes from training in different activities. So, that's pretty much what I do with my dogs anyway.
Yeah. So what would be a sort of a go-to behaviour or skill that you would work on with one of your dogs that people could have a little go at home, or what they could implement? Something really simple that you do with your dogs.
I mean, it depends. It depends very much on where the client's kind of priorities are. I mean, maybe they've got times at the minute to kind of pick on some of their domestic things that they want to do, domestic manners, maybe it's kitchen manners or something like that they want to work on. You know, with my own dogs, they very much like all the kind of scent games and kind of hiding games. So I have, you know, and I think that's great for confidence building. I mean, I see so many clients that come to me with behaviour issues. If I've got a cardboard box on the floor and I put a little bit of food in the back of the cardboard box, they're too scared to go and get it. So, you know, it's a great time for kind of, you know, building their confidence, you know, set up some free search areas outside, like you do when you're breeding a litter of puppies, you know, tarpaulin sheet and upside down wheelbarrow buckets, cardboard boxes, you know, whatever you've got. And the kids should enjoy that kind of stuff as well. So setting up some kind of different areas for the dog to go and explore, pop-up garden sacks and things like that I use. And mine love that. If I open the door and say my kind of little phrase, that they know there's all hidden food out there, and you probably wouldn't be able to see too much food in my garden because I can hide all of the fences and everything. And they absolutely love it.
Oh, fantastic.
So,
great.
And they're games that you can begin to, but I was just going to say that those games you can begin to put words to, and as we know, with those words you get emotional responses, and they can be used as fantastic meeting cues outside.
Excellent. That's...
You know, I do a game where, you know, I find logs outside or bark of trees that I can hide bits of food on, and you know, they love it, absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's about being creative and a bit imaginative with your ideas, isn't it, really? You know, I mean, thinking a bit outside the box, and also a little bit differently about how you can engage with your dog, so that you're not, it doesn't have to be all about, you know, if we're limited with what exercise they can get or how much time we can, you know, some people I know, mind that, good girl, some people are, you know, they probably used to walking their dogs 2 times a day. Obviously, we're restricted now. So it's thinking creatively about how we can engage with them to make things a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, and I think, you know, maybe it's a good time to have some of those kind of goal setting kind of things. You know, there might be a couple of things that they don't like with the dog behaving in the house. So rather than a second walk, okay, well, let's spend that time with you. Putting in place some different management practices.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, that's again, like, I suppose the phrase is make hay whilst the sun shines. If you have the opportunity, you're in close proximity with your dog for extended periods of time, all those little niggly things that you may have just previously managed, do a bit of work on. So, for example, if the dog, you know, barks at the doorbell, we'll do some work on it. If the dog isn't good at settling in different environments, do some work on it, and so forth and so forth. That's really, really good. So, continuing our conversation about what we can do and how we can be proactive, a lot of your clients deal with behavioural issues, and that's a main chunk of your work, and obviously that can be challenging if you can't leave the house, and certainly for socialization. What advice or tips do you have for people that have behavioral issues with their dogs or are concerned about socialization issues with their dogs in this time when we are limited in what we can do?
I think, well, with behaviour issues in general, I mean, it's mainly to link to the kind of dog's kind of emotions and feelings, isn't it? So I think the more people can spend a bit of time maybe understanding and gaining some knowledge so that they can then apply that, and having a little bit of understanding of their body language so that they can understand the dog's emotions. So a lot of fixing it is all down to the relationship, isn't it, and trust that you've got between you and the dog. I think there's lots of tools and techniques you can develop that are then going to be useful outside. But it's, you know, when it comes to maybe if you're talking about kind of puppies and socialization, or maybe it's those older dogs that have a lack of socialization, it's looking at the ways that you can do that, because, you know, socialization is really about familiarization with the world around them. So it's not, you know, some dogs do have specific issues with certain things, maybe that's children or dogs, but it's looking at how you can kind of still be working on your desensitization process. So that's kind of an area that we would start with. So it's looking at how you can do that safely. I mean, but, you know, what I might do in this current climate is, you know, I would with my puppy, I mean, how I start a lot of socialization, I might drive to a location, so maybe a supermarket, park as far away from all the people as you can. I put the dog in maybe they've got a guard in the car, or they've got a crate, and their dog is happy and comfortable in the crate, and just taking them down there and simply, giving them a Kong to chew or a bone to chew in the back of the car while you sit there with them and have a cup of coffee. Not in reach of kind of people, so you're keeping those kind of safe distances. So there may be opportunities to work on desensitization. People are allowed out for their one exercise. So again, working at distances, if it's outdoor kind of environmental things that you've got to do. If the dog's worried by noises, then start putting a noise desensitization program in place that you can work on at home initially. So there's lots of things. You've got to break all these things down, and there's lots of things they can be doing, to still keep the kind of progression going.
Yeah, excellent. That's great advice, Di. Really, really good. I think, obviously people are, whilst they're at home, they're probably going to be walking their dogs more so, which is fantastic. It's great. We're going to see people being active. I think that's a plus of it. I mean, when I was driving to walk my dogs, I saw people exercising, people walking their dogs, which is all positive. We're probably going to find that there's going to be more dogs out and about, which means then we need to be vigilant and be proactive in what we do. So great advice there from Di. Do your homework, essentially. So desensitization, do some proprietary work at home, work on the dog's confidence in general, and then taking that out and about. And again, think about distance away from other dogs and other people, etc. And that's a great thing. There's a good justifiable reason of having social distance from people, because you're working with a dog that may need confidence. So it's a perfect a blessing of this current situation. So again, try and look at everything and put a positive slant on it. That's fantastic. Really good advice there. So Di, you recently launched your own online training. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and just talk about what you offer and how people can find out more about it?
Yeah, so it's really, I spent the last year of my life kind of working on this really, and really over time working with kind of pet people and going to seminars and finding out more about kind of puppy farming, and my passion really is prevention rather than cure. And as a dog trainer, I can't give, particularly new owners that have no knowledge, I can't give them the information quick enough. Okay, so I may see them in one lesson and they had certain priorities that we needed to talk about, and then they're going maybe wrong on another kind of thing that we haven't got around to talking about yet. So it's how I can kind of paint that picture for them, and kind of what I want is to give them the insight so that they've got better knowledge to kind of make decisions and react to, a bit more instinctively to the dog. So the course is really designed to support trainers like myself in that, they still can't maybe apply it practically. They still need a trainer to help them, which is something that I go on throughout the course. But it's about us trying to give them that picture to start with, so that they've got some knowledge that we can then help them put these things into practice. So it's all of my passion wrapped up into, it would probably take me about 20 hours to train people the content of that course. So if they've done the course, then I can work with them knowing that they've got a little bit more knowledge, and work with them to be able to better apply the training in a practical sense.
Fantastic. So where can people find out about it? How do they find out about it? What's the website?
The online course is on Thinkific. So if you go onto thinkific.com, you could look up Click to Heal, or go onto the Click to Heal website. If you go onto puppy training and online puppy training, we have targeted at puppies, but some of my clients that have got a year-old rescue dog have done the course as well, because it's general across all dogs.
Yeah, it's all about getting the right start. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, and one area we try to target is, people pick up their puppies at 8 weeks old. They have a vaccination. They might go to the vets, and the vets say, they're not allowed out till they're 12 weeks. And they've just missed that key socialisation period. As dogs are learning all of the time. Absolutely. And they're developing emotions linked to that learning. So if people contact me at 12 weeks old, often they've gone wrong already, and we're kind of trying to play catch up. So it's really about all that, like we talked about, the early socialisation, the desensitization, vaccination, different ways of doing that, all of the kind of how you introduce them to the children. It's just everything a new dog owner would need to know, really.
Yeah,
so
fantastic.
yeah, check out, go to the Click to Heal Facebook page, and you'll find lots of information.
Okay, brilliant. And I will put the details in the post this conversation. That's really, really fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So is on any parting sort of tips or comments that you would say to people to try and keep them buoyant in this testing time?
I think just try and stay positive, use the time wisely. So we're reviewing a lot of our programs. We're doing some brainstorming sessions with the team about what we can do differently, what we can do better. We're renewing a lot of our kind of worksheets. We're always changing our training all of the time, and sometimes the worksheets can be a little bit out of date. So, try and see, how can you utilize the time wisely?
Yeah.
Go and train your own dogs, come up with some new things, come up with some new games, be inventive.
Brilliant. Brilliant advice. Thank you very much, Di. I really appreciate it. It's been a really, really great conversation to have with you. As I said, Di's, a really good friend, and she's an incredibly kind person who is always willing to help and extend that beyond. So I thought this would be a great conversation, another way to deliver it whilst we're all on lockdown and we're limited in what we can do. So thank you very much, Di, for your time. I really do appreciate it. Again, everybody, stay positive, stay optimistic, and definitely think about how ways in which we can lift each other up. So hopefully this conversation has been helpful. I will share Di's details post this chat. But Di, thank you very much. Take care and look after yourself.
Thank you. Bye bye.